Hi, Skye.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Happy to be here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm good. I'm happy to be here too. I'm so excited to chat about everything. You've had such a great, unique experience starting from such a young age, and I cannot wait to
Yeah.
hear all of it.
Oh, thanks.
So today I'm chatting with Skye Alyssa Friedman. Skye made her Broadway debut in the revival of Annie and was in the Tony Award winning musical Kimberly Akimbo and is now currently on tour with Kimberly Akimbo. Welcome to the pod. Here we
Yay!
go. Let's do this. All right. So I have to know how your whole theater journey started. You started performing at such a young age, and you knew you wanted to be on Broadway at a young age, and you accomplished it. Was there any specific theatrical experiences that have inspired you to begin in theater?
Yeah, so I mean, like from the time I was like under 5 years old, I was always singing and dancing, and I just had always loved theater. I was always watching Shirley Temple. I was obsessed with her. Like my parents had all the DVDs. She was always on the screen. So I feel like she's my first inspiration. And then I did Mary Poppins in preschool, and I played Mary Poppins, and I was like, yeah, no, this is it. And my parents, I don't remember this at all, but my mom was walking me out of kindergarten one day and she's told me this story multiple times. And I turned to her and I was like, Mom, I'm going to be on Broadway one day. And she was like, What? Like, how do you even know what that is? And I was like, Yeah, that's where I'm going to be. And she was like, Okay. So I don't know. I think it was always just like an inherent desire and passion for me. And then I started taking classes at the theater in my community, which is a really amazing regional theater, the Multi Theater, and they have a great conservatory. And just kind of grew up training, and that's where I met my agent, and it all kind of spiraled from there. Hmm.
So crazy that like in your mind you knew what Broadway was, but like you've never experienced like
Yeah, I had
Broadway
never seen a
first.
Broadway show. I had never been to New York at this point. Like, that's why she was so like, what is going on here? Like, how do you even know what all that is? Like, how do you know you want to be there? But I just knew. I was like, that's like my home. So I was like, I
It's
have to get there.
Yeah, and you did. You got there.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you grew up in Florida. When was the first time you came to New York City? How old were you? Did you see any Broadway shows?
I did. I was let's see. I was like 7 or 8, maybe 6 or 7, maybe. I was young still. I remember like as soon as I got into the city, I was like, this is where I want to live. Like I used to always talk about the sparkly sidewalks, and I know no one else sees them that way. Like I know New York City's kind of dirty and everything, but like as a kid, I was always like, the sidewalks just sparkle here. Like this is where I want to be. I did see a musical. I'm pretty sure my first Broadway show was um, oh, what was it? Mary Poppins, I think, oddly enough. No, it was the one, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name right now. It was the one Christian Borle was like tap dancing on the ceiling. Was that? It was
Oh,
like
yeah, that's
Bert.
Mary
He played
Poppins.
Bert. Yeah, Mary Poppins. I don't know why I'm
Mary
going
Poppins.
crazy right now. Yeah, so that was actually, I never even made this connection until now. That was the first show I did, and then that was the first Broadway show I saw. So
That's so
crazy.
funny. Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
first
and I
Broadway show
loved it.
too.
Oh my God, really? That's so
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it was great.
I I was terrified. I was really young. I grew up in New York, so like I went to Broadway. Like I've
Okay.
gone to Broadway my whole life.
Yeah.
So I saw Mary Poppins. My mom. I don't remember, obviously. I actually
Yeah.
remember one part, but I was terrified of the show. Like it
Oh,
scared
oh
me
my God.
so. Yes, and I made my dad sit outside with me. But that was the time, like when back then they used to have screens in the lobby, so you can watch the show in the lobby. So my
Yeah.
dad
Uh-huh.
paid for my ticket and his ticket, and we sat outside in the lobby and watched the show from the lobby. I
Oh
don't
my God.
remember it.
At least you watched in the lobby. At least you
Yeah,
didn't like
I remember
it.
like small little parts of it, and I remember being scared, but
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the actual show.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it
I
was
feel
really
like I was entranced the whole show. I was just like, oh
yeah,
my God, this is incredible.
yeah.
I think I saw the Rockettes that trip too, like all the classic New York City stuff for a kid, and I just like fell in love with all of it.
Oh my God. Yeah. I grew up in New York. I've never seen the Rockettes. Like, I feel like I have like a piece
Yeah, I
missing
feel
because I've
like
never noticed.
yeah, you should go. It's fun. I mean, I haven't been back since I was like 6 or 7, not because I want to, I guess just because I haven't got around to it. But I enjoyed myself then. So
How old were you when you started auditioning?
Yeah, so like I said, I started taking classes at this conservatory, and then one of the head people there was like, "Oh, but there's an agent coming into town. She's doing a workshop. You should just come and like hang and just see." Because I was really young still at this point. I was, I think, like 8. Um, and so my parents were like, "Okay, I guess you can go to the workshop." We just thought like that's all it was going to be. Like I was gonna hang, meet this person, maybe learn something, and move on. We went to the workshop, and then like an hour after the workshop or something, the agent was Nancy Carson, who I'm actually still with. Was she called my parents and she's like, "I'd love to represent your child," and they were like, "What is going on?" And they said no, and they're like, "No, thank you." And she was like, "Okay, why don't you take a month, think about it, get back to me, like learn a little bit more. I can give you some like parents to talk to and like read some books, whatever, and we'll see." And so like in the month, I managed to convince my parents to let me embark on this journey with this agent. And I mean, they knew it was going to be a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice. You'd have to fly up to New York a lot. Luckily, I mean, not luck. I mean, I'm an only child, so it made it a little easier on our family to navigate that part of it. But they said yes. And then I think when I was 8 or 9, I started flying up to New York for auditions. And then by the time I was 11, I booked Annie. Crazy.
It's so crazy that you're still with the same agent. Also,
I
it's so
know.
nice that you wait, let you think about it and like make sure it was right
Yeah,
for you.
totally. Totally. It was really great that we had that opportunity to figure that all out. And I'm glad that, I ended up signing with her and I kind of started this whole different path of life that I'm really grateful for. But yeah, no, I've been with her I'm 23 now, so long time. Long time.
Hmm. That was like also the prime time of like kids on Broadway. Like so many shows.
Totally. The year of Broadway, 2013. Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
so many
playground, the
shows.
Broadway kids playground was packed. We all knew each other. We all hung out. Yeah. It was definitely
So
the prime time of being a kid on Broadway.
yeah, seriously. So let's talk about your audition process for Annie. Like, what was that like?
Yeah.
What did you sing? How did you like know what to do?
Yeah, I forget. I think we were singing material from the show. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. Um,
Hmm.
I remember I had the first audition and then we weren't okay. So first off, I originally said no to the Annie audition because it was just like it was becoming a lot, like flying up to New York all the time. Monetarily, it's a lot. Like it was just a lot. And so my parents were like, "No, we can't do it this time. Thank you though for the opportunity." And then I got like 2 other auditions for shows in the same like week or within the same like 3 days. And my mom was like, "Okay, we got to do it now." So we were like, "Okay, actually, we will do the Annie audition. Let's fly up, you know." So we flew up to Annie, and then we were on the plane home, and we had just gotten on, and my agent was like, "Oh, they want you for the callback." But I had a science fair, and I was very much a like studious little girl. I loved school. I was really into that. And I had this science fair and I had like this big presentation and stuff. And my mom was like, "She has a science fair. Like, she can't go to the callback." And my agent was like, "Well, okay, like, okay." And so I literally flew back home, did my science fair, which I won, by the way. So worth it.
Yeah,
um,
seriously.
won first place. Um, and then they were like, "Okay, we'll just push her to the next callback." So I got to skip that. The next callback was, I feel like everything was like we had to change everything to make this work. Like we had this one family vacation planned. We don't go on family vacations. We had never gone on one before this. We had this whole thing planned for the first time ever. It was like during that final callback. So my parents like canceled the whole vacation. So like that's
Oh,
why I'm saying like sacrifice. Like it's really kind that they supported me. And so we flew back up, and then I think there were 1 or 2 auditions, like final callbacks. And then after that last final callback, 45 minutes after, we were staying with friends in Long Island, and they had just drove into the city to pick us up. I got into the car with our friends, and we got a call from my agent, and it was so quick. It was just like that. It was 40 minutes after, and she's like, "They want you to be part of this Broadway production." And then she's like, "Oh wait, I have to go. Someone else is calling. Like I have to deal with this like important thing." So I didn't even get like the full details, but we hung up the phone, and my best friend and I, like who I was staying with, we like turned to each other in the back of the car, like our moms were in front of the car, and I was like, "I'm gonna be on Broadway," and she's like, "You're gonna be on Broadway," and like everyone just like burst into tears. And my mom like went into shock because she realized like we'd have to change our whole life and move to New York and everything else. And she's like, "Oh my God, like what do I do? I have to get chicken. I have to get chicken." And then we like literally like went to the grocery store to get chicken, and we were leaving the next day, and our friends are vegetarians. Like we were just all in shock. Like it was crazy.
Why
Yeah,
chicken?
I don't know. She was just panicking, and she's like, "I don't know. I have to get. We should make chicken. I don't know." And my like my mom's friend was like, "Liz, what are you talking? Like, okay, like I'll drive you to the grocery store." And we literally had the flight out the next morning. Like there was no reason, but she just like didn't know even how to process it. Like it's such a huge life change so fast. Like we had to move to New York like within like 2 weeks or something. So it's a lot. But yeah, it was a really cool car ride and memory, and it happened pretty quickly.
Was the chicken good?
We never made the chicken. Like we never had it. So silly.
Legend has it the chicken is still in the freezer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, did you enter the cast with a bunch of other kids? Like, what was the rehearsal room like at that time?
Yeah, I entered with, I think the three of us came in together at the same time, me, Gabby, and Amaya, if I'm not mistaken. Because we came in the middle. We weren't original Broadway cast. We were replacements. Some of the kids were leaving. Some of the kids were staying. There were originally a few child standbys before me, but I became the only child standby in the company. So I covered 5 roles. I covered Annie, Duffy, July, Pepper, and Tessie. Yeah, it was fun to at least have other people coming in with me because we all rehearsed together, and I think there was a camaraderie there, like joining this already existing cast. But everyone was so kind and welcoming, and I don't remember like details about the rehearsal process fully, but I think it's like you're thrust into this world of responsibility, and you kind of recognize that right away, and you kind of just realize like the work that's in front of you. I remember I used to like, I had my entire NA script like color coded. Like I was 11, and I was like, everything was color coded. There were flags. I had notebooks for different characters, like all the choreography and tracks. Like I was making track sheets at the time, and I don't even remember like necessarily being taught to do that. I think I was just like surrounded by an environment that encouraged that, and our dance captain was really great, and I think I just picked up on the fly like how to handle that type of job at that age.
Do you still
Yeah, it
use
was
the same
wild.
skill, like for Kimberly?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for Kimberly, I only had 2 tracks, Delia and Teresa, and I had them color coded. Like Delia was green, Teresa was pink. Just makes it easier to separate in my brain. And then I have like very specific track sheets that I use that I make like they only really I guess make like perfect sense to me, but they're very helpful, and I would like reference them during shows, even though I didn't need them. It's just a kind of a security blanket, but I find that to be one of the most important or helpful things when I'm like covering like those sheets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who'd you go on for the most in Annie?
In Annie, I went on for Duffy probably the most. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was that the easiest one to keep like forward in your brain because you went on so much?
Probably. I feel like as a kid, you don't even realize how much you're doing. Like looking back now, like 2 roles was like still, the roles in Kimberly are very specific and very intricate and like a whole different scenario. But even 2 roles like covering is extremely difficult. And looking back, I'm like, I don't even know how I did that as a kid, like 5 roles, 5 principal roles on Broadway. And it's just like I think as a kid you don't even realize what you're doing. Like you're just so open to everything and so open to just like handling and just like I don't think I realized the significance and the like enormity of it until I look back now.
Yeah, I feel like because like when you're so young, you're like, oh, like this is where
Yeah.
like, you're so much more like you're probably still passionate now, but like when you're a kid, you're like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like I need to do.
Yeah, it's also like your brain is so malleable. I mean, even just like how like learning languages as a kid is way easier than trying to learn them as an adult. I feel like that concept kind of applies to like learning a bunch of different tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like that is a language in its own kind.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
What's your like craziest swing story? Like, did you ever have to go on mid-show?
I did go on mid-show. We had to get ready really fast. I was like, in my little street clothing, little dress, earrings, everything else. Like everyone surrounded me all of a sudden. Like they were trying to get my hair. Like I was going on for Duffy quickly. And they were trying to get my hair into the Duffy hat and the wig in and my earrings off. Like I had like a bunch of people around me. And then we went on to do, I think I came in at Little Girls. And in this number, like Duffy's character like had to go up on the desk and like put her legs up and like do a little, not describing it well, but basically upside down on the desk. And in that moment, we realized in all the chaos, we had forgotten my bloomers. Like all the little orphans had like not fancy, like old fashioned bloomers that we would put on. And they forgot my bloomers. So I like flashed the Broadway audience in my like little pink underwear or something. And I realized what was happening. And I was like, oh no. So I was like trying to cover like my own dress. And then I like walked off stage and they're like, oh my God, okay, next time the bloomers go on first. We're so sorry. Are you okay? Like, we'll never forget the bloomers again. And it wasn't a big deal, but it was just like so chaotic. And I'm like, that's how I flashed, 3,000 people at 11 years old. But yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, it was probably so scary then, but now it's like so funny to talk about.
Yeah, it's hilarious now. And I feel like it was like such a quick second. Like I realized and like pulled my dress up, and everyone realized the backstage and everything. So then if anyone ever swung on mid-show, they were like, okay, bloomers first. Yeah.
That's so funny. What was it like working with a dog on stage?
Oh, the dogs are great.
Like special thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 dogs, Macy and, oh my God, I'm forgetting the other one's name right now. And Mikey, Macy and Mikey. Mikey was the dog I worked with more. It's so fun, and you learn how to like, I mean, they're like little professional actors too with their dogs, but they're so trained. And oh wait, did we have Sunny too? There were a few different dogs around. And yeah, you like learned how to like hide the treats in your costume, and then when they do like what they're supposed to do, you kind of have to slyly give it to them on stage. And then you also kind of learn how to work with them when maybe they're having an off day and they're not as cooperative. And I mean, but it's so nice to have animals backstage, and they're so sweet, and you really form a bond with the dogs, especially when you're working with them like that. So it was really cool. I'd love to do more shows with dogs.
How did you handle balancing school and performances at such a young age?
Yeah, I started homeschooling in 3rd grade, and I stayed home. And before I was even working on Broadway or anything, but that was when I had started to work regionally, professionally, and when I was starting to play up to New York for auditions all the time. So I was homeschooled from 3rd grade until college, actually. So I feel like for me as a kid, balancing it didn't change that much because I was already like homeschooled. I already was doing online classes. It wasn't like I was used to going to school in the day and everything else. But I mean, I was constantly doing school backstage. Like I would be in the swing, like office we called it then, and like in the green room, and I would be like sitting, like, reading all my books for homework and like writing papers. And like, I think being a cover gives you an opportunity to like really focus on school backstage in a way that you don't have when you're on all the time. But it's still extremely difficult. You have to like really manage your time and be very dedicated to both, I think, to make it work effectively. When I really had to, the hardest for me was I did Kimberly Akimbo on Broadway while I was in college at Pace University in the BFA acting program there. And I didn't take any time off of school. I did school my freshman year, and then from sophomore year until graduation, I worked because I did Kimberly off Broadway. Then I did a play called The Lucky Star off Broadway, and then I did Kimberly Broadway for 2 years. So sophomore, junior, and senior year, I was working, and that was crazy because it wasn't like like I was in class during the day. I was in class in the morning before a matinee. I would have stage combat from like 9 to 12, go do the matinee. Like it was an insane schedule and really difficult to balance. And I was always doing homework in the understudy lounge. And I think that's where like a community is really important and helpful. Like I feel like everybody in that lounge was always like coming together to like make sure I was doing, like I was the only one in school and doing the show. And I think everyone was really helpful in that process and like came together and was like, what do you need? How can we help you? They would like run scenes for school with me in the lounge. Like I like wrote my thesis backstage at Kimberly Akimbo. So, they were very intertwined for me. And it was one of the most difficult periods of my life. It was truly exhausting. Like I would not recommend to anyone, but it was also extremely rewarding. And I'm grateful and I'm happy I did it now and I have my degree and yeah, crazy.
Pace offers a class that you can get class credit for being in rehearsal and stuff. Did you take that class?
Yeah, I did. I did get credit for the show. I think I got like 6 credits or something, which was awesome.
What's one thing about performing on Broadway at such a young age that like would surprise people that you think that they wouldn't know?
I think maybe just like the community of it and like how much like care and community there is there even at a young age, even though you're like separate from the adults in a lot of ways, it's still like such a cast and like everybody really comes together and supports everyone because like I said, it's like a huge life change and a lot of responsibility to put on a child. And I honestly don't know if people realize how much of a responsibility and pressure it is because like it's like, oh, these kids are having fun and you absolutely are having a blast as a kid and you're living your dream, but like you also know that it's Broadway and there's a pressure there. So I think finding that balance and just like the community of it, I think can be a surprising aspect.
And lastly, about Annie, which orphan do you relate to the most?
Oh God, I need to remember. Honestly, maybe this might be a cop out, but maybe Annie, because I just feel like at that age I was so like optimistic and like made the best of everything, and just like also had the kind of pluckiness that she has and the kind of grit to like make things happen. I feel like at 11 years old I was very similar to Annie.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about college. So you mentioned you went to ACE for acting.
Yes.
Why did you decide to go for acting instead of musical theater?
Yeah, I didn't audition for any musical theater programs actually. I went to an acting program in New York the summer before I applied to colleges. It was Stella Adler's like teen conservatory, and it was just straight acting. And I fell in love with like just like a straight acting program and the classes that entailed. And I feel like for me, what has always been the most important is acting. Obviously, I love to sing and dance, but I feel like you have to be able to tell the story, even if you're the best singer in the world. I don't really care that much if there's no like story or substance there, just for me. Like, and so like that was always my focus. And I'm also interested in like TV film and straight plays. And I actually just got to do a film this summer, which was really cool. Um, but I just decided that for me, like I could still take voice lessons every week and I could still take like dance classes in the city, but I wouldn't have as much of an opportunity to have like an acting curriculum again, like just like all put together for me. And I feel like I just had a bigger interest in that type of curriculum at that age. And I'd been singing and dancing my whole life and I'd been doing musicals my whole life. And I really wanted to learn more in the straight acting world and kind of explore that. So I only applied to acting programs. I actually almost went to school in London or Liverpool with acting programs over there. But with the pandemic, it was just like too much. I didn't get to go visit, and I was deciding between Pace and these British schools, and I Pace was always like one of my top programs. I wanted to be in New York City. I loved the curriculum there. I loved the vibe of the professors. So the fact that I got in there and had like all these great choices and had to decide, and I'm really happy with the path that I took, and it allowed me to keep my connections in the city. And the fact that I was able to work on Broadway and do Kimberly Akimbo and do school and graduate is like something I'm so grateful for. So I think it all worked out the way that it was supposed to. But yeah, I really love my program. I studied like dialects and IPA and like stage combat and all this like stuff that maybe I wouldn't necessarily get to study in a different program. We studied like voiceovers and commercials. Like, I covered like a wide range of topics that I feel like still helped me in musical theater. And then I still took voice lessons every week. We actually took vocal class in my acting program. So I don't feel like I lost out. Like I didn't miss out on anything in that respect, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And also Pace has like a great catalog of classes, like so
Totally
different than a lot of
the electives are really cool. Yeah, for sure. I fully agree with you.
You mentioned that you obviously were in a Broadway show while you were in college. Was like the program like totally for you guys auditioning constantly?
So it's kind of a complicated question and answer to that question. I would say that no, the program isn't for people constantly auditioning. And they are very, I'm strictly talking about the acting program. I don't know much about the musical theater program at Pace, frankly. Our program isn't super about people auditioning. They don't like us missing class. We only get like, we don't, I don't, there's some classes that you don't even get like one excused absence in. Like, they're very hardcore about attendance and everything else. However, they also are open and they're like, if you have an opportunity that you think would really propel your career and you as a person and an artist forward, like, talk to us and we can decide like how we feel and if it's something that we work around together and etc. So when I got that off Broadway of Kimberly Akimbo, I had approached them and I was like, I really feel that this is an important project that I do. And it's with Janine Tesori and David Lindsay Bear. And it's, with these incredible like Jessica Stone and Danny Mefford. I was like, I'm doing it with Vicky Clark. Like I have to do this, you guys. And honestly, they were very receptive and were like, we also think this is a great opportunity for you. And what was helpful, I think, is that the first year of school, because I started in 2020, it was in a pandemic. So there was no auditioning happening. I couldn't get distracted by anything in the city. I was very, very, very focused on school that year. And I had, done a good job in my classes and I had made good connections with all my professors and established a rapport. And I think they realized that like I took things seriously and that I wasn't going to blow everything off. And so because of the communication I think that we had, they were very open to working with me and we figured it out. I did obviously have to miss some class, but I made it up in other ways. And I always like had to do all the assignments that everyone else had to do. And then I had the Lucky Star happen, which was a play off Broadway at 59 and they also were like, we think this is a good opportunity for you too. Like, we'll continue to work with you. And it went well when I did Kimberly at Atlantic. Like, I was still on top of everything in my classes. And because it all went well, they were like, okay, we can keep doing this. And then with Broadway, they were like, yeah, of course you have to do that. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, and with Broadway, it was easier after like the initial rehearsal period, I would say. Not easier like to do, but easier to manage the scheduling of it and not missing class because I did have some like daytime or they had a lot of 9 a.m. classes at Pace, so I was always in the 9 a.m.s, which I'm not a morning person. But I had to manage. So yeah, like we made it happen. They didn't like make excuses for me or like make it easier on me, but they really like were very encouraging and like we made it work and I'm very grateful for that. And I felt very normal at that school, which was kind of great. Like it was just very grounding and like a routine of like, okay, I just get to be a student in class right now and like have a teacher and like work on my skills and there's not the pressure of like being on Broadway or performing or this being my job. Like all I have to do right now is being a student. And honestly, in some ways that was really grounding.
So let's talk about Kimberly Akimbo. I love Kimberly Akimbo.
Oh, me too. I'm biased, but I'm like biggest fan over here.
Yeah, it's like that opening number is my favorite opening number ever.
Oh no, it's perfect.
Yeah. So what was your audition process like?
Yeah, so crazy enough, I'm the only person in the cast who's been at Atlantic Theater, Broadway, and tour. So I've been with the show for a long time. It's been 3 years now. My audition process for the show was weird. I actually first auditioned for it in that summer that I was in New York doing that Stella Adler program in 2019, and it was like untitled teen musical at that point. Like, I don't think we had any material from them. Like, I think I just like went and I don't even remember what I sang. And I had no clue like what it was. I was like, okay, great. And I did it on the lunch break between classes at Stella Adler because we weren't allowed to audition during that program or like miss class. So I did it on the lunch break, made it back, and they never knew until I told the head there like a few weeks ago because I did a talk there. And she was like, that's hilarious. That's incredible. You didn't miss class and you booked it. So yay, it all worked out. But yeah, so I auditioned then, and then it was like, when was the next time? Then it took a long time. Well, then the pandemic kind of hit before they had gotten it off the ground or anything. So then it was like March of 2020. In May of 2020, I was home in Florida graduating high school, and I got another tape for it. I don't know if it was still like Untitled Teen or if it was Kimberly Akimbo at this point, but I like taped for it in my parents' home in Florida. Heard nothing, like kept moving on with life. Then in the summer of 2020, no, I'm trying to keep track of everything here. I think it was summer of 2021 now, because I did, oh my God, dates. Because I started at Atlantic in October of 2021, I believe. So yeah, it was a few months before that. I like taped again and heard nothing, I think. And then all of a sudden they were like, okay, actually, wait, can you tape again? And I was like, yeah, like, and this time they like made me tape so much stuff. It was like four sides between doing them like Delia and Teresa, like both things. It was like different parts of the songs. I had to do like a scale thing. Like I remember sending in like 10 or 12 videos and I was like, oh my God. So I taped all of this stuff and then I got an email when they were like, oh, you want to have her come in and do a work session for the music director. So I went in. They had started the first week of rehearsals at Atlantic already. I did this like audition with the music director on one of their breaks, like in a little room at the Manhattan Theater Club place where they were rehearsing, and like had a great time with Chris. I'm like really good friends with him now. Chris Fennick is so awesome, and he was our music director at Atlantic and on Broadway. And we laugh about this, like me just coming in at this random break at the rehearsal studio, like all the time, like singing some random song because we had to bring in something. And I feel like I sang something like so not what you would think, and I don't even remember what I never remember anything. But anyway, so yeah, and then literally like an hour after that, my agent called and was like, "Okay, you booked Kimberly at Atlantic," and I was like, "Awesome." So it was weird. I never like was in for the director or choreographer in person. I never danced. I never like all I did was tape, sing a few things with the music director, and then I found out that I booked it. But it was like over multiple years that I was taping, like 2019 to 2021 for this musical. And I remember at one point I had gotten some of the music or something, and like I still didn't really know what the show was, and it was like I got the R disease music or something, and it was elephantitis then, not even fasciolosis. And my voice teacher and I were like, "What is this show? What is going on here?" Like, I was like, "This is crazy," but I was like, "Okay, I trust in Anita Sori and David Lindsay Bear, so I'm not doubting this." But I was like, "What is going on?" And I just had no clue what the show was or what it would become or like how important to me it would become. Um, but yeah, so a weirdly involved audition process and also weirdly not involved at all. And then for Broadway, I didn't re-audition. They just asked me to be part of the production.
Honestly, like on paper, Kimberly Akimbo, it seems so weird. I feel like at the show
I
you
know.
have to like really understand how amazing it is.
Totally. And just getting these random excerpts with no context and like I feel like this show without any context, and if you just take random lines or random scenes or random songs out, you're like, what is actually going like what is this?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like the
yeah.
first time I listened to the score, I was like, "What's going on?" Like,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what is this anagram situation? But then when I
No,
saw it,
exactly. Right. And now it makes so
yeah,
much like it's perfect and I love it
yeah,
and I love Janine and David and I was already like a fan of I was such a play reader as a kid. Like I always loved plays and acting and like I loved David's plays and I loved rap. Like I was like a David Lindsay Bear kind of fangirl. So then I was like, oh my God, I get to work with Dila and like Janine and like they were the
yeah.
sweetest. And I actually became really close to them at Atlantic because I was a cover there and the three of us would kind of all sit in the basement and like hang out and dance and talk. Like it's some of my best memories. And so like getting to work with them was so cool. And I knew from like the beginning of even when I didn't know what was going on in the show, I was like, I trust in them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Where were you when you found out that the show was going to Broadway?
Oh my God, why do I not remember this pivotal moment of my life? I think we had like oddly it was a Zoom call. Like I found out in my apartment in New York City through a Zoom call. They were like, we're gonna transfer to Broadway. I didn't know immediately if I specifically was transferring to Broadway or not. We just had a Zoom call about the show transferring, and then I found out like a month or two later. Like my agent got an email that I was asked to transfer. But yeah, it was exciting.
And then
And I think I got the email about transferring right outside of my voice teacher's apartment, and then I like walked in and told him, and we both were like, so excited and happy. And we had a lesson where I barely sang because we were both just so excited, and I remember that being a really cool moment. But yeah.
And then you guys won a Tony. What was that night like? How did you guys celebrate?
It was truly magical. Like that's like the only word I know to describe it. It was one of the most magical nights of my life. We had a watch party with the whole company and crew and cast, backstage, everyone. I think it was at Tanner Smith's maybe. It was some like basement watch party situation, and we all were like, so it's like all those nerves and tension, but also like excitement and hope, but just like a crazy energy in the room. And we were all watching, and then like it won like score and book, and we were like, oh my god, like it's like happening. And Vicky and Bonnie won, and then Best Musical came, and they said our name, and the whole room just like erupted into like screams and laughter and tears, and everyone was hugging, and it was just like it was so special. Like I'll always remember that moment. And then we had like another Tony party after that, and then I was at like the Carlisle. I mean, I didn't get home that day until like 6 or 7 a.m. But like, how often does your show in Best Musical? I was like, I don't care. It's Monday. Like, I'll sleep all day. Like, I had off from school. I was like, whatever. Like, I just want to live in this night and like experience it to the fullest and like the joy and everything else. So it was amazing, and yeah, truly one of the best nights of my life.
So who'd you go on for the most on Broadway?
They ended up being around even, I think. Maybe Delia a little bit more. I was going on for Delia a lot at the beginning, and then I started doing Teresa more. And then I think it kind of evened out a little bit. But yeah, I did them pretty equally, maybe Delia a little bit more. But I love both of the characters. And now I play Teresa on the tour.
Did parts change from tour to Broadway? Was the rehearsal process different? Like how did anything change?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was probably the most change between Atlantic and Broadway. Like we changed the Act One closing number. It used to be a song called A Different Me. Now it's called This Time. It's a completely different song. We changed some of the plot, like a little bit of scenes, and it was worked on between Atlantic and Broadway. The main big change was the song changed at the end of Act One. Between Broadway and tour, none of the actual material changed. Obviously, it was a different rehearsal process because it was an entirely new group of people. From Atlantic to Broadway, it was pretty much the same group of people. So it was really exciting to have like new people and new energy come into the room. And then some small things had to change. Like our set is actually reversed on tour versus on Broadway. Like the skating booth was on the other side of the stage, just like random stuff like that. So that was weird for me because I was like, I've been with the show for 2 years doing the choreography the other way, and the set I was like really glitching at the beginning of rehearsal. But we all adjusted, and we used to have a different set. We like push lockers now on tour, which is actually really cool. So there were some like kinks or new things to work out, but yeah, it was really exciting to like, it was so incredible to do this show with the same group of people for 2 years, and we really became so tight knit. And I mean, it's such a tiny show, like with everyone like main performing cast, and understudies, it's 15 people. That's a small group of people for a Broadway musical. So everyone knew everything about each other, like everyone's day, like everyone was very involved. So it was such a comfort to do the show with the same group of people for 2 years that I was like slightly nervous to like suddenly do it with a whole new group of people. Also very excited, but I didn't know like how it would be or like what the dynamics would be. So I didn't know how the rehearsals would differ from Broadway to tour. And it ended up being so exciting and joyful, and like it's so wonderful to see like all the different takes and interpretations on these characters, and they all like work and are just incredible. And I think it was so exciting to just have new energy and like new thoughts from people and new perspectives. And I feel like I've experienced so many versions of this show now that it's just really cool, honestly. Like I feel like I've seen it through so much.
And this is your first national tour, right?
It is, yeah. I've never been on tour.
How has being on tour differed from performing on a Broadway stage or like at a regional theater?
Obviously, the main thing is you're moving places and cities all the time. You don't have access to your like home, I guess, which I feel like, you know, life outside of the theater is still a huge part of your life. So there's a whole adjustment of like not being in your place. Like I'm in an Airbnb in San Francisco right now, you know. We were just in LA for 3 weeks. Like you're constantly changing cities and locations and different beds and like adjusting to different hotel rooms and different climates. I think that's really been interesting. Like you're going from different altitudes. Like when we were in Denver, like I was like, oh my God, it's so hard to do better. There's oxygen off stage. Cool. You're like having to do all these little adjustments, or like some places are really dry and you're like not dealing with that in New York at all. Or like at a region, like you're there, you have your home, you have your people, you have whatever you need, and it's all, you know, pretty much stays the same. I think the major part of tour is the constant adjustments, which is really hard and challenging sometimes, but also really cool and really exciting. And it's fun to travel and see all these new places and try new restaurants. I'm staying at the Airbnb with my friend Miguel, who plays Seth, and like we both love to eat like new food, and so we're always like hitting up different restaurants in different cities. And like it's like, how often are you gonna have the opportunity to do that? Like I'm 23, I'm getting to travel the country right now, and that's really cool. Like I'm seeing places I never thought I would see or go to.
Have audiences from different states like perceive the show differently?
I think that's such a cool question, and I think the answer is definitely yes. I think we haven't played like the South versus like the Northeast. We've really only been on the West Coast right now. So I feel like maybe there isn't as drastic of changes. Like I'm excited to go, you know, all over and see what the vibe is. But I totally feel like in different cities, like different jokes land more. And then in other cities, they don't find that funny. And then the like the vibe of the audience in LA was so different than the vibe of the audience in San Diego or San Fran. And it's been interesting seeing like what audiences are more vocal versus what are more like quietly concentrated, and it's really cool actually. Yeah.
To end off our conversation about Kimberly,
Yeah.
was it scary to ice skate at first?
Yeah, totally. The ice skating is crazy. We took ice skating lessons at Chelsea Piers, like at Sky Rink, which was really fun. We all got to like have little field trips to the ice. But the polyglide is so different from actual ice that it's like two totally different activities. I feel like so there was a huge learning curve there. Even after like feeling comfortable on the ice, like all of a sudden you're on the polyglide and you're like, I'm not moving, I'm toe picking all the time, I'm falling forward. Like there's a huge adjustment. You have to put your weight like all the way back on the polyglide. Like when I'm skating, my weight is in like my heels fully. You're like engaging different muscles. And yeah, it's scary to ice skate for sure. Like I'm always like so nervous about falling, which actually isn't even a big deal. Like if we fall, it's fine. Even our choreographers, like you guys are teams at the rink. Like people are bound to fall. It's not a big deal. Like just check on them, like say if we're good or not, and then we get up because this is life. Like Kimberly's not supposed to be like it's not supposed to be like the teams are professional Olympic skaters or we're great dancers or anything else. Like they're just supposed to be like show fire kids in high school, you know, which I think is kind of relieves the pressure a little bit. But you got to keep on your toes with ice skating, because whenever you relax and get a little too comfortable, that's when you start like getting risky again. But it's been weird too with the polyglide. Like we have to rebuild our deck in every city now, and that's like a whole new thing. And I guess different climates have like affected it differently. Like our floor started shrinking a little bit, and we had like this is something that they never had to deal with on Broadway. You know, tour comes with so many unique other challenges. And like our skates, like we had a skate sharpener who always did them on Broadway who was in New York, and we didn't have our skate sharpener anymore. They were going to send the skates back to New York City, but then that was becoming too much. So now our wardrobe supervisor is learning how to sharpen skates, and we have a fancy skate sharpener machine and like all these new things that we never had to deal with on Broadway. But the skating's fun now. Like I kind of want to keep ice skating after Kimberly, and you know, see for fun as a hobby.
Are you gonna put skating on your special skills?
I think that after 3 years of ice skating almost daily, it can go on there. I feel like I have proficiency. I'm certainly not an expert, but I can skate a little.
I mean, technically, you're a Tony Award skater.
You're not wrong. I'll take it.
If Kimberly and Annie could team up, what kind of big adventures do you think they would get into?
I think that they would definitely go on a road trip because Kimberly loves road trips, and I feel like Annie hasn't gotten to see much of the country and would be very down to explore and visit different places. So I can see them going on a road trip, going to an amusement park, that type of vibe.
If Annie and Kimberly met, what do you think they would bond over, and what advice would they give each other?
I think they're both like very plucky and optimistic characters in people, and I think they both like want to live life to the fullest and like know how to like go after that. So I feel like they would bond over their ability to kind of make the best out of any hard situation. I mean, they both had incredibly hard lives. Kimberly has a tough home life. Annie has no parents and had a tough life at the orphanage, and yet they kind of are this bright light. So I feel like they would bond over that, and I feel like they would help each other through and give each other the moral support and the love that maybe they don't always receive from people.
And lastly, if you could take one iconic song from Annie and put it in Kimberly Akimbo, and one Kimberly Akimbo song and put it in Annie, what songs would you change?
I think I would put Maybe in Kimberly Akimbo because Maybe is probably one of my favorite songs from Annie, and I could see Kimberly singing a really beautiful Maybe about maybe a different life that she could have had, or a different home environment. And I think that would actually be really poignant and beautiful in Kimberly. And I think maybe what would I put from Kimberly and Annie? Maybe like a silly, fun rendition of Better. I feel like the orphans could really have a ball with that one in the orphanage. Like make your city life better, like I think that could be a fun one at the orphanage with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, those are two great choices. All right, so you made it to the rapid fire questions. This is just like
Yay!
10 quick questions to answer. So what's your favorite audition song?
I feel like recently you only really get material from shows. So I feel like I don't even have a book anymore, Jaden. Like, I don't even know. I don't know. That's what I was like stressing the other day because I was like, what if I ever have to sing my own material again? So I gotta figure that out. I'll come back to you on that one.
Okay, let me know in the future. What is your go-to snack when you're backstage during a show?
Probably something salty, like a potato chip or like a little roasted cashew or something. I love salt, so probably something easy and salty like that, or candy. There's always so much candy backstage in any show that it's almost impossible not to snack on candy.
Yeah, everyone says Sour Patch. You're like the first person who has an answer.
Absolutely. No, you're so right. I eat Sour Patch all the time. Emily, who plays Deborah, like always has packs of like watermelon Sour Patch, regular Sour Patch. Like I'm always eating the Sour Patch. They're good for the voice too.
It's like
Vicky Clark always used to eat potato chips. So I feel like I have the potato chip influence and the Sour Patch candy influences around me.
But what's a dream role that you can never see yourself playing?
A dream role that I can never see myself playing. Whoa. Oh my God. Okay. I feel like, okay, wait. I want to play Sally Bowles one day, but I can see myself playing her. Like, that doesn't feel crazy unrealistic to me. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's like some traditionally male character that I would love to play in like a play or something, but I'm trying to come up with it. Who is it? Or like King George, for fun, something like that. I feel like that's the classic answer. I feel like I want to do more plays and like I want to originate roles, but I'm like I can see that happening, So I'm like I don't know. That's such a good question. I have to think about that.
That's a good answer. Right. Let's get you in. Definitely. Let's make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could revive any show and star in it, what would it be and who are you playing?
Maybe I'd love to do Spring Awakening. I think that would be really cool. I'd be honestly open to any of the girl roles in that show. I feel like that's such a great show. I want to do like what there's like I want to do August Osage County so badly. I want to play Jean. Like if they could revive that soon, I would love to to play Jean in that. Um, yeah, there's so many great plays that I feel like haven't been on Broadway in so long, and I'm like, revive them. You know what? I also really would love to do The Pillow Man, and there's no role for me in that. So honestly, that's probably my dream role that I can never play. Like one of the two guys in The Pillow Man, I would love.
What's your go-to warm-up song?
I feel like for like vocal wise, I'll usually like keep it pretty simple and pretty easy. I probably won't sing a full song. I'll probably just do like little lip trills and whatever. Music really depends on the day. I feel like I'm always listening to sad girl music, even when I'm not sad. But honestly, sad girl music still gets me hyped before a show. I got that Lizzie on, the Phoebe Bridgers, you know. So yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, apparently there's a rumor that Lizzie McAlpine is coming to Broadway next season. It's a musical theater song.
I can see it happening.
No, I
It's a
totally
musical theater song that's
happening.
always stuck in my head. Yeah. I mean, honestly, because I'm constantly around Kimberly and have been around it for 3 years, like there's always some Kimberly song stuck in my head. My friend Eli Tokash, who's also a Broadway kid and now has his own podcast, like he helped me with the audition for it. And he literally will still walk around singing like like from Skater Planet just because it's always in his head. So I feel like that one really gets in there.
Yeah. Yes, it really does. That too. Also, that is the same level in my head as in Spelling Bee in Pandemonium, where they're like my oh
okay,
my,
yeah.
all
no, that
the
totally
time
makes sense.
playing in my head. Yes, those are like the
also
two
Father
things.
Time. Father Time is always in my head from Kimberly. Like
yes.
I don't know, it's always stuck in there.
Yes, I feel like
underrated Kimberly song, TBH.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I feel like those songs are so catchy. So catchy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's the coolest person you've ever met backstage?
We've met a lot of like classic musical theater legends. We met like Bernadette, who I feel like I always watched like as a kid, and like that was really cool for me to meet her. Billie Eilish came to a show once, but we didn't get to meet her, but it was really cool that she was there. Who else? I feel like it all gets like it becomes such a blur for me, but we've had a lot of really cool and very kind people come to Kimberly and like really enjoyed the show. So that's been really great. Jim Parsons came, which I was like such a Jim Parsons fan as a kid. Like, and he came to Atlantic, and Jake Gyllenhaal came to Atlantic. But Jim Parsons, like I watched so much Big Bang Theory when I was a child, and I was like obsessed with Sheldon, and I was on the night that Jim came to the Atlantic, and I'm not somebody who like gets flabbergasted or like really I don't really find like I'm usually it's fine. Like celebrities are people to me usually, and like I'm not whatever. I got so flustered when I saw him outside, and he like talked to me, and he was so kind, and he like gave me a compliment, and I was like unable to speak, and that was the only moment that's ever happened in my life. So that was really cool when he came. Yeah. And now he's like on Broadway all the time. He's working Our Town, go off, and he just did that other incredible play, Mother Play or something, which was so good. But yeah, so now he's like, I mean, he always was a big theater guy, but it's cool seeing him like really working on Broadway right now.
If you could be in any Broadway show's original cast, what show is it?
I would really love to originate a role in both a musical and a play. I guess I don't know if that actually answers the question because you're saying original Broadway cast, but I want to be in like another new musical or play and originate a role. Like that's my favorite thing to do. I think like it's workshopping new stuff and working on new musicals and building that, and I think that's really cool. So probably that.
No, yeah, and it's such a unique.
So something that's not written yet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really cool to like be part of that whole process and like watch everyone work and change things, and I really enjoyed that.
What's the hardest song you've ever had to sing on stage?
Probably something in Annie. Probably like, Tomorrow or Hard Knock Life. That stuff is so up there. Kimberly is luckily fairly simple vocally, which is awesome. Very great. Yeah.
And lastly, if you could sing a duet with anyone in the whole world, who are you singing and what song are you singing?
Okay. In the whole world.
The whole entire world.
Whoa. Hold on. You know who I want to see sing a duet?
Oh.
This is gonna make like total sense, and I've talked about them so much today, but I think it would be hilarious and incredible because they just are such a great partnership is David Lindsay Bear and Janine Tesori. I need them to do a duet
Uh-huh.
together because watching Janine dance and then like they have such a like interesting and fun dynamic with each other. And I don't want to be part of the duet. I want to see them do it. And
Yeah.
that's my answer.
No,
Yeah.
that is, I couldn't say it better. Like, that is a perfect
Yeah.
answer.
They're hilarious, and I think that it would be the best thing to ever happen if they did it together and sang. So yeah.
Yeah. So you survived the rapid fire questions and the podcast.
Woo!
It was so great hearing about your experiences. So unique and different.
Thanks so much. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I've had a crazy life. I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, grateful for the people in it who have made it all happen.
Yes, you can see Skye and Kimberly Akimbo on tour.
Yeah, around the
all over
country.
the place. Yes. All right.
Yeah.